Happy Saturday. It is June 17th, 2023, 9:40 p.m. Sorry for the lateness, but I had issues with Cox. Big surprise. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center Live Saturday overnight edition. Woo, it's been a big week. Obviously, we have the Flash news to go over. My current home city won the Stanley Cup. They just had the parade today. CM Punk came back to AEW after nearly a year off and had a epic show, and I'll talk about that later. And we had Netflix's TUDUM came along, and majority of it I just pretty much ignored, but there were some things in there that connected directly to me. Thade will be on later. He did extended coverage on it, so I'm going to leave that up to him. Let me go ahead and, before I get to all my topics and stuff like that we have lined up, I'm going to go ahead and say hi to the chat room, because once I get going, I'll probably end up ignoring you guys. How you doing, Bell? What's going on? Chappie, how you doing? Saw the movie. Sasha Calle needs to be in a DCU or have an Elseworld movie because and Michael Keaton are the standouts in this movie. I thought Ezra Miller was a standout in the movie, but they were great in it. Sasha Calle needs more. To be honest with you, box office, I don't think the box office is going to affect their decision-making and using her again. If it did, Andy Muschietti wouldn't have gotten a first look deal and wouldn't have gotten named to be the director of Brave and the Bold if they were basing their decisions going forward on what the Flash's money was doing. I got my thoughts on where they're doing with the Flash. I think that they're pushing this movie as fast as they can from day one of this new regime taking over to getting it on POV and getting it on HBO Max as soon as possible. I already saw the ad for the Steelbook already. I mean, the movie just opened yesterday. The Steelbook's already being advertised for advanced sales. And I know that's normal, but I think that it's going to be the norm from this point on with these movies. You're going to see really, really, really short windows. So everybody gets happy. The theaters get their 2 weeks that the majority of the money is made in the theaters, and then the streamers get their value out of it, and then the POVD, and then you get the physical media. I think that is what the studios want, because all the other platforms, with the exception of the studio, they get the most out of their dollar. I'm pretty sure they make a vast majority, and if not a lot more than they do with distributing it to a theater. Also, when you think of international box office, they get 35%. They got to get 35% to the theaters here in America. But when they go overseas, I'm pretty sure, if I have to look at it again, that the overseas markets like China get the majority share. So they're not even getting the majority of their dollar over there. So I think the race to streaming is on, whether they want to admit it or not. Cool to have you back. Thank you. Let's see, Ray. Evening, William. Everybody, how you doing, Ryan? Long time no see. Be sure to smack both my button, button you're on right now, which is most of you are watching through Point Extra Down, but if you're watching through the Sci-Fi Center's one, there it is. I mean, youtube.com/at the Sci-Fi Center. Viva Las Vegas. What are you, Elvis? How you doing, Larry? All right, well, Empower, remember what I said. If the Flash movie bombs, DC not make the money back, what's going to happen now? Interesting thing about that is, remember when Warner Brothers Discovery first became a company, everything that DC was doing, everything that everybody who they owed money to as far as debt goes and making their money back, and all those people that would, the break-even people, those people got their money up front. This is going on. Everything that they did this year is going on a loss sheet. And they're going to get a huge write-off, and they're going to get a huge tax break. Companies like this is the reason why companies like Warner Brothers and the big banks, why they don't pay taxes. And then they're going to turn around, and with their money that they spend, which is minimal on marketing and everything else, they can say, well, we spent it on the Flash and all these other movies and Black Adam and Blue Beetle, and we took a hit on those movies, but they're really, that same advertising is basically advertising the movie. So when it hits streaming, increasing its value on streaming, that advertising dollars that they're going to take a loss on, that's the same advertising dollars that they're using pretty much, that's going to hype up the Steelbook that's already being advertised. Those lost dollars, it's going to go, that advertising carries over to PVOD, and trust me, keep an eye on TNT and TBS. Those losses that they use to build up the Flash, that they're building that up for when you turn on NBA TV, and just before the game goes, you have the Flash airing right before there. And guess what? It's got commercials. Who's paying for those commercials? I'm not going to say it's a scam. I'm not going to say it's smart math. It's not the best thing for, maybe, the movie going public, but if your job is to make a profit, you want to put these things in the platforms that's going to give you the most carry for your buck. And when you switch it to these markets, or you push it to these markets as soon as you can, you're putting the exposure in areas where you get the majority of the money back. The longer it sits in these other platforms, they have to cut up all their money. So that greed is good sometimes. It's not pleasant, but I think, so when it comes to any of these movies losing money, get with their accountant in the IRS. You'll see just how much they're losing. All right. Let's see. Did I get 200 subs? I know we're still tracking on me being 78 when I get monetized. So, hey, we did it. Cool. Yeah, go Kings. We'll get onto that too. The CM Punk. Holy shit. I was watching that live and I was like, is this guy going to get fired right now? Because I loved the promo. I actually liked it more than the pipe bomb one that he did back in WWE because of the history that's going on, and the dollar bill Phil versus counterfeit Bucks. Ooh, I'm pretty sure there's a trio of individuals that were not happy about that. So yeah. Yes, we hit 200. Woohoo! Like I said, once Enosh comes back and assumes his throne, we're going to be doing a lot more content on that channel that is more specific to that channel. We'll still doing broadcasts on here, but now that I know, I got a pretty good idea when he'll be in here, it's going to be a lot easier for us to schedule things and do things. We haven't done a Sci-Fi Center Presents since before all that went down, so I really want to get back to that. So yeah, we'll probably start shooting up a little bit. All right, so let me give it. I'm going to bring in my co-pilots. Box office and word of mouth is disaster. No other way of cutting it. Guardians of Spider-Verse. DC doesn't give a fuck about Guardians of Spider-Verse. That's not their bankroll. I have shown that these movies in theaters for multiple weeks make serious cash. That doesn't. All right. I don't think you understand that these people don't care about that. They are not fans. They are not YouTubers. They listen to their accountants. They have a chart that shows who gets their money. Who gets the majority of the return? Who gets the percentage of the return on their investment? They're not watching YouTube. They're not watching this show. They don't care about that. That is this, what you typed, RJ, that is not bottom line shit that they care about. Whether I agree with it or not, because I think it's kind of a cattle run myself. But they don't care about any of that. I guarantee you they don't give two shits about any of this. Should they? That's debatable. And I'm not saying that I agree with it. But I guarantee you they don't. They're moving these things along, especially the movies that they didn't actually greenlight the capital for. They've taken their loss sheet on that. They are herding that cattle to the nearest point where they can get the most meat for them as possible. And I wouldn't be surprised. What's today? The 17th? I wouldn't be surprised, and this might be extremely exaggerating. I wouldn't be surprised if the Flash, they didn't have a plan to put the Flash on some type of streaming or VOD by the end of next month. That may be foil hat me speaking, but I would not be shocked to the least if by the end of July, by the 3rd or 4th week of July, that we not on some type of streams where they get the bulk of the value for it. Is that right? No. Personally, as somebody who likes to see these movies in the theaters and who works in those theater staff and would like to see them stay employed and keep their jobs, but that's not the priority of these guys. Their job to make as much return on their investment as possible, as quickly as possible. You know? All right, before we hit the rest of the chat, let's go ahead and bring in, how you doing, Thade? Everybody, when you're not on, go ahead and mute so that I don't feed back into you.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing
all
right.
How you doing, Brad? Good to see you.
Yeah, likewise, Thade. How you doing?
Breathing. Been a long week.
Yeah, I know the feeling.
All right, so I'm going to get likes out of it. Then we're going to go into not really. Not really. Most of them are playing it by ear, but trust me, in these back offices, they got a date. They got a whiteboard. They got a target date. You know, so most of the studios are returning to stretching out the theatrical windows again because of money they can make extending the theatrical run. They don't get all that money though.
And also, by the way, none of those decisions have been made because of the strikes right now. Those decisions are still up in the air whether they extend the streaming time or not. And whether they extend, some companies are doing it, some aren't. I've been studying this all week, so.
Yeah, Fast X, man, streaming in a flash.
In Warner Brothers, given the fact that this movie, the losses have already been absorbed somewhere, this isn't. They want to get it somewhere where they can make add-on cash with this movie. That's my thinking. Am I crazy, Brad?
You know, it's like I'm not really the economics expert of the the business model of these two, and that's actually kind of what I want to hear your take on, which is, I mean, we had the really strong early word of mouth on the Flash with a lot of the early shows and the CinemaCon showing, and that has mitigated somewhat, in some of the early critical, but I mean, audiences, again, it's seems to be leaning positive, but then of course we're kind of in the situation now where it's like, okay, what's the opening weekend going to look like? And that's I just kind of want to throw that to you because I'm not the math guy on this.
All right, so here's where I'm going to be talking a lot, and then I'm going to hand the show over to Thade and you guys, because I've been thinking about this the whole time. I was really hesitant to talk any of this stuff until Sunday night, because really these numbers are kind of worthless at this point. We don't know, we don't know. But let's say hypothetically, if it goes to where it is going. Now, if 2 weeks ago, and I think RJ was on the show when I fucking thought he had seen the movie. When we were talking about what's the kind of thing that could derail a decent box office. And I said Ezra's not going to be a factor. I mean, online and terminally online, people who stare at the computer all day, stare at each other online all day, Ezra's a big deal. But to the general public, and it proved it when I actually went to these movies and talked to people. But the one thing I was worried about was the brand damage. The brand damage, and it's unfortunate because the Flash, I love the Flash.
Yeah, that's where kind of my thought process has been too. Is that? Well, go ahead, Thade.
Yeah, can I make a point here?
Yeah.
My brother, who is notoriously picky about the things he watches. Okay, my older brother. Even though, before I explain the Ezra situation to him, because everybody hears what the sensationalist media has to say, okay, and none of us should really be paying attention to that, because the only thing the man's been ever convicted of is the one burglary of a habitation. Okay, the other stuff has either been found unfounded or the charges were dropped, whatever. When it comes to Ezra, we beat this dead horse several hundred times. Back on the Poindexter Lounge, we had the court documents, we had all sorts of stuff going on. People didn't want to believe it. We brought proof. We talked about Ezra. That's my point. You know what I'm saying? But like my brother, who was notoriously picky about movies, went and saw this movie twice this week. Twice. Okay. And even after I explained the Ezra situation to him, he was like, man, I didn't go to see it for Ezra. I went to see it for Michael Keaton. I went to see it for Ben Affleck. I went to see it for the Batman in the movie. And that's my point I'm making. This isn't just an Ezra Miller situation. Everybody wants to make it that way because he's technically the star of the movie. But what certain people have tried to talk down about is that nostalgia pump, okay? Most of the people, mine and William's age, because me and William are around the same age, were going to try to see if we get into that Batman 89 feel. And let me tell you, I've not seen the movie yet. Probably not going to see it till it streams. But seeing the video I've seen of the old Wayne Mansion from the 89 Batman coming back and everything else, dude, I'm pumped to see the movie, whether I go and see it in the theater or not. You know what I'm saying?
All right. So,
yeah.
real quick, while you guys, I'm going to bring this up here. I'm going to bring this. I'm going to share the screen because this is something that this is not reactionary to what Flash is doing. We're several movies into what I think might be a problem, and I think is
I was about to make that point, William. Hold on. The point that the real problem with DC right now has been the problem that DC's had for 30 years. Okay. There is no, and I hope James Gunn fixes this, and I hope it's not too late for it, but there is no consistency, continuity. There is nothing. I mean, it changes every 5 to 10 years. You know what I'm saying?
By the way, I think I spelled all this wrong, but
no, you didn't.
Oh, I didn't. Okay.
Yeah, looks good to me. And yeah, to your point, Theta, which first of all, with you looking forward to it for a Keaton Batman, and then kind of the nostalgia component of that. It's like I will say he absolutely. I mean, he is. I mean, still on top form. I mean, he delivers big time in the Flash. As does both Ezra's, as does Sasha Calle's Supergirl. I mean, this I've seen it twice myself now, and I mean that's like the early reactions I feel for the most part were fairly representative of the quality of the movie, and I mean there's been some kind of dissection of the visual effects, but even even that I feel like it's like there is like a lot of stylistic choice to it, particularly with like one element, Barry going through the Speed Force, which you'll know that
right
once you see it. But going off of your point, what William had said, and looks like you're leading right into this. It's the albatross for this movie, for every DC movie, pretty much since, like I said, it's they dealt with this for 30 years, but in the current iteration of DC, I mean, pretty much since 2017 has been just the nonstop, just pulling the plug on things, just plan shifting, coming, going again, and the chaos of it. It's like that has just burned so many people on this, and it's very unfortunate because now it's like it's deserved to be doing so much better than they are. I mean, the Flash, especially, I think.
Flash is great. Now, I'm an idiot. I'm going to make this disclaimer. I'm a knucklehead, and this is what I came up with. Now, when James Gunn first announced his slate, I gave it a 40%. I gave it a 40%, saying those factors could increase or decrease depending on the environment and things that goes on and the decisions that he's made. He made a real bad one, and we'll go into that article later on, in my opinion. But it could go up. It could go up. I could see something trailer. I could say 50, 60, 70. Right now, it dropped about 15% for me. And I don't think that this is going away in the 2.5 to 3 years that we have to sit around and stew and wait for yet another upheaval. I think this is something that's at the foundational level. But I'm going to start with this right here. Continuity plus completion plus consistency equals cash. And you haven't had that. You haven't had the continuity because you blew that. This is talking, both prior management and the fired management, the deservingly fired management. There's been no completion. This is things that when I talk to people, and I got the 3 C's from talking to people from 2 Flash screenings, and then another couple of, a couple of people that from 2 other ones that we sent. We did a lot of Flash screenings, but I did a lot of going back and forth, and I made sure that I didn't just talk to geek common people because we targeted common people to give our passes to. They were able to point out the brokenness of this. And I'm not talking about the people who sit on YouTube and we've just lived and died by this stuff for the last 8 or 9 years. There was no completion to the story that you started. That led to no continuity. The things that you put out after you blew up that continuity weren't consistent. If you look at the releases, and we're talking about excluding the Aquaman movie and the first Wonder Woman movie, because those are part of the same structure that they shot down. But if you look at the movies and the ideas that they had in lieu of, so that's a difference when people make the comparison to Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy was in support of the universe that they had, and that universe was able to support them back. What DC did was not in support of. It was in lieu of. Instead of having a Superman, you gave me a Shazam. Instead of giving me another Justice League, you gave me Birds of Prey, or you gave me the Suicide Squad, or you gave me these things. Those things would have been great in support of, but you did them in lieu of instead of. That blew up your continuity. Now, that kind of damage is what the damage has done to normal folks. I'm going to give you an idea why this matters and why people say, when you say move on, if you don't have anything for them to move on to, you have pretty much doomed yourself. We're shopping at my hardware store. And you do what's a BOPUS, a buy online, pick up in store, which means you come in and you pick up the stuff and we have it ready for you and you leave, right? So if you come in and I at home and you know what, I forgot 2 of the tools. That's incomplete. You like me, you like my brand, so you're going to come back and going to give me another shot. And then 2 or 3 times, I leave out a wrench, I leave out a power tool, I leave out a battery. I've left you with incompleteness, and eventually you are not going to come back, no matter what I do. I could fire the guy that's filling the bags and say, hey, there's a new guy filling the bags, but you've already been left with so many you don't trust me anymore. So I could go and rehire the best associate I could ever get. I could revamp all my inventory. I can even hang air fresheners and make the damn place smell better. It's not going to matter. You don't trust me anymore. And that doesn't go away. And this is where the whole James Gunn situation comes into plan. You can reboot all you want. You cannot reboot the circumstances that you built around this. The names and faces can be changed to protect the innocent, but the environment is still the same. Nothing about what James Gunn is walking into or putting himself into is going to be any different than anything else just because you change the guy wearing the S. Because here's one thing, like I said a couple of nights ago, you can't reboot boneheaded fans that sit and lie in wait. Anyway, you can't reboot knuckleheaded critics in some cases. By the way, cinema score, Black Adam higher than The Flash. That
Thor: Love and Thunder higher than The Flash. That is ridiculous.
No one ever bring into my mentions, nor tag me again about Rotten Tomatoes or Cinema Score. I have as much use for any of those outlets right now as I do for a used condom. But that's a different story. But here's the thing now. Now you have a situation to where you have Shazam, I love Shazam. I love both Shazam movies. But those mistakes I made with leaving the battery out of your bag, that's coming back to haunt me. I love the Flash. I love The Flash. I would go see The Flash again. Saw it again last night. I enjoyed the hell out of that movie. That movie's, regardless if it makes 30 or more minutes, and it has nothing to do with the hard work of Andy Muschietti. It has nothing to do with Sasha Kai, Michael Kay, had nothing to do with them. And that's why when people say, well, just make a good movie and everything will be all right. That is such bullshit. And I said that. I will quote myself and say that is such bullshit because here we have a great movie. We've had several great movies now where the circumstances has overridden what that movie should do. So this ain't changing in 3 years. You're recalibrating a system, hoping that the same environment reacts differently to you than they are, and they're not going to. The same people who crap in their diapers about their Superman or have a brand new set of diapers ready to crap in when you give them that Superman. These same corporate type of people who want a return on their money are still going to want a really fast return on their money, which is going to put you under a tremendous amount of pressure to make more money than that movie's probably going to make. And guess where we're going to be? And everybody wants to point, well, David Zaslav said he backs him. David Zaslav is closing in on set with hundreds of millions of dollars in the banks. Those kind of guys retire. And the successor ain't always the greatest. Bob Iger handpicked his successor. Look how that turned out. So reboot away. I guarantee you if certain things and certain approaches are not changed, we're gonna be back talking about the new DC head, talking about the new Warner Brothers Discovery CEO, and you're gonna have damaged this thing for another generation.
And I want to add to something you're saying here, William. That's my problem. I'm not the biggest DC fan. I've always been, well, not in the movies anyway. I've always been a fan of the animated DC stuff. I've been a fan of, Marvel and Star Wars and Star Trek and all that. That's more my bag. But like with the live cinematic universe since, I'm going to say 78, since Superman, okay? Dude, we should have gotten a Justice League movie in the 90s, okay? We should have gotten, if they had any consistency, Superman 78 and Batman 89 would have been in the same universe. Okay?
I forgive them for that. Because guess what? Look what they were going to give me in the 90s, that Nicolas Cage movie, which would have made me want to tear my eyes out and throw them at you.
William, if you let me finish, like I said, they should have done something with Keaton's Batman and Christopher Reeve's Superman, okay? If you're wanting consistency with DC, they've never had it. Okay, why do I want a separate Superman movie that has nothing to do with a Batman movie I've gotten, 10 years later, 11 years later? When in the comic books, this show's always been together. And it's my same point with the animated series stuff. And I know you hate animation, William, for the most part.
I'm flirting with banishment, but here's the thing, though. I forgive them for that in the 70s and 80s because they just didn't have the mentality. I can only judge them right now for what they've done in the modern era. Because now we're looking back on hindsight, but now in the modern era of what we have to be able to make films with, even if you can go back 30 years, but I only have to go back 15. I only have to go back 15 to see how they've jammed this up. And then I got people saying, well, you guys didn't show up to see Black Adam and it's your fault. Like the entire internet is going to fill a corner of a county. And you guys didn't come see this movie, and that's why they need to reboot. Okay, you're blaming the common fan, not the hardcore guy like us who did go see these movies. You're blaming the average fan for tuning out when you gave him a half Superman and never gave it to him again, and now you're going to put in substitute Superman? You're going to blame the fan for tuning out on that? I can't blame them. Even though I enjoyed those movies, they set the standard. They disrupted the standard and then had nothing to put on the plate afterwards. It would have been a wholly different thing if they just said, you know what, we can't count, but hell, 871 million is not enough for us, even though I bet you the bastards are looking at that now and wishing they had that scratch. But even if they said that, even if you would agree with the deep-hearted clowns that made those decisions, if you're going to take steak off my plate, you better have prime rib sliding on there. And if you don't, you put yourself in a situation to where now instead of Superman, I got Shazam. I got Birds of Prey. I got Gleek the fucking monkey on the way. We were going to get Gleek and the Wonder Twins before we ever got another Superman movie. At some point, that wears on the average person, and they stop showing up, and good movies pay.
Yeah, and to go off of that,
turns out that
and to go off of that point, William, and a little bit of avoiding spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen The Flash yet. There is something, there's something that happens in it. Let's say that I almost wonder if this was an intentional analogy on Andy Muschietti's part of what has happened over the last couple of years of the constant we're semi rebooting, we're changing this plan, changing that plan, and creating just a bigger mess as we go. I'll leave it at that. But I mean, William, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. That happened.
Yeah, we're gonna get into some spoiler talk with the Flash. Eventually, I'm gonna put up the spoiler banner, so we will be talking about it. We'll give people a warning. I love this movie, and this movie is what they should have been doing the whole time. But another problem is this: everybody's crowding around the computer and saying, "Ooh, if the Flash," and this is what because I was saying, let the Flash's money do the talking, but that was hopeful. But here's the thing: the Flash is a JV guy; he's on the team, but the Trinity are the varsity captains and the assistant captains and everything else. We're looking for movies like Black Adam. Oh, Black Adam doesn't do well. We need to reboot things. Oh, Shazam showed you. You're getting the people who are the guys holding the towels and for the quarterback, and you're telling me those guys are going to determine whether we should reboot. And it's like, wow, that's how jammed up things have gotten. And you're telling me that in 2.5 years, and this is a long time for me to even get excited about it, that this is going to change. You would have to change the entire outlook of it, and they're not going to, because I hear the same stupid shit that I heard from the previous regime. And by the way, disclaimer: this regime is better. I will dog them when I think that they've messed up. This regime is infinitely better than the one that they took over, but they've made some missteps. They've made some huge missteps that I think are costly missteps. I think, and I didn't know this in detail until later on, I think they made a huge misstep in this movie. I think William, they made it critical. Go ahead.
I don't want to interrupt your train of thought too much there, but we one of our audience here has some good news that he wants to share, that they want to share with all of us. So I'm going to go ahead and put it up on the screen. Optimus Prime here says, okay, so I was diagnosed with leukemia when I was 9 years old. I've been fighting most of my life. We had a scare that my platelets were low about a year ago. I had my checkup with my team 2 days ago, and there's no sign of cancer in my blood anymore.
Awesome, Optimus.
I am glad you've gone into remission, buddy. I hope all goes well for you. I know how scary it can be to have a blood disorder. I have one myself, and I wish you the best.
Yeah, root for you, dude.
That's real life news. That is, I know we're talking and we're getting, passionate about what we're talking about here, but that's imaginary characters and stuff like that. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter in comparison to that news right there. Congratulations on behalf of everybody who's watching, everybody who's been through cancer, been with relatives of it, and you're talking to a son of a cancer survivor. So congratulations on that. And that's literally, without qualification, that's the best news of the night. I don't need to even see anything else. Unless somebody else who's fighting cancer comes in and tells me that they beat it too, and then I will put you guys both in that positive pool. So thank you for bringing that up, Optimus, and putting everything in perspective. But yeah, and then like I said, it's just, if it were me, if I were just, like I said, if I were just a hijack, go into Burbank and say, I need you guys just to get out, and I'm going to need 24 hours to think, and you guys just sit outside the office. I know that I got my trolls out there. I got trolls now, by the way, guys. I've made it.
Yeah, you mentioned that the other night on one of your streams. That somebody was like having a go at you, and I was like, "What the hell's that about?"
Dude, we both got trolls now, William. We both got trolls.
My semi-stalkers who misquote me and misrepresent stuff. So this is somewhat for you guys out there that are doing that. I'm going to say this slowly so that you can take whichever you're going to take back to your masters and blow it up. I don't think the Snyderverse needs to be restored. I think I've said that over and over again. But I'm going to say this slowly for everyone else, because maybe your computer processors are working at different speeds and you fuck it up in your heads and on your computers. But here I'm going to say it. I don't think the Snyderverse should be restored. I think I coined the phrase. I didn't ever use the hashtag to bid it. I think you need to resolve it. I think you need to end it. I think you need to conclude it. But I don't need 20 million movies from that. I don't even think that needs to happen now. I don't think that should be a binding factor to the Flash. I think that if the Flash somehow makes its money or shows you in some way, form that you can go forward with these characters, then you do it. I think regardless, I think there's a connection with Sasha Calle's Supergirl that we're going to end up seeing, but that's for Andy Muschietti to decide. All right, but make no mistake, the issues with what happened with Zack Snyder's work, regardless to how you feel about it, is why we are here. And it's why I brought this graphic up. Everything that they did wrong, Machete's film is paying for it, might pay for it. We don't know what the numbers are going to look like, but Shazam damn sure paid for it. Blue Beetle's going to get smoked.
Oh, if I were Blue Beetle is like that is, I would be really, that's going to be hard.
Which is disappointing. Which is disappointing about the Blue Beetle movie because Zolo Maraduena is a really good actor.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic on Cobra Kai, and it's like it does look pretty good, but it's like that's a JV guy you're talking about there.
Yeah,
Aquaman. You put Aquaman in jeopardy, but not just those movies. It takes time to screw this up as bad as the predecessors did. Trust doesn't get built like that. Brand name distinction, brand name loyalty takes years. So now we're going that's not changing in 2025, 2026. It's not, and you're dooming. James Gunn could put out the Godfather equivalent of Superman movies, and it's not going to matter. There's a good likelihood that it's not going to matter because the brand name recognition, 9 years of doing it wrong, doesn't get undone. Do the math. 3 years is less than 9. So you have bad will possibly overlapping into this. And it's a trust factor. It's an investment in time. It's an investment in money. It's an investment in emotion. And the only evidence that they have going into this is what you've given them. Lack of continuity, lack of completion, lack of consistency. And that in turn hurts your money. So if it were me, I would sit everybody down. First of all, if it had been me, listen, as much as I think James Gunn is a brilliant storyteller, and I think he can eventually, under certain circumstances, pull all this off, I would not have named a new DC head that soon in lieu of what the people I already had there were doing. Once you had, that would have been a while down. I would have done a lot of consolidation, even if I want to do this. I would have taken inventory of everything we had going for us and not going for us, the good and the bad, and put together a game plan to make it so that the person I did hire has the best possible odds of succeeding and making a smooth transition instead of what is a disruptive one. I would have done that. And then I would have rolled into what he was doing. But given the fact that I think that you need to build a foundation of trust with the average person, screw us, screw the internet guys, screw me, screw the online critics and all those guys, flush those guys down the toilet and hope they go out the other end and make it safely. The common fan is where the trust is. We're showing up to these movies. They ain't. If the common man doesn't show up to the movies, you can make his, and I was making fun of on my Twitter, the dumb meme where it says DC fans on the internet, DC fans in the theater. I know it's a joke, but that's part of the mentality that needs to be abandoned. We don't need to be we need to be going out and doing some outreach with these guys. And I think that they should take these IPs and Game of Thrones them. I think they should use that platform. I think they should use TNT and TBS as a way to make these IPs event worthy. And I don't think you can do it on the big screen with the frequency that you every 1 or every 2 or every 3 years. You ain't got that kind of time. You will have blown away an entire generation of potential viewers doing it the way that they're going to do it.
And that's absolutely my point, William. That's absolutely my point.
Game of Thrones it. If they were to make a Game of Thrones movie, it would rock. Why? Because Game of Thrones has spent the time to make it and do it on that platform. Give me 10 episodes a year. And you don't have to do it forever, but get these things set on these platforms and then graduate them to your big screen and take those people that you've gained with you and then recycle that platform and continue to graduate it up there. They have something, that a lot of other studios don't have if they use it right. But it's going to take volume to build that trust. One movie What, I got 3 movies coming from James Gunn, possibly in what, a 5-6 year period? When's Matt Reeves' Batman coming out? How long did it take Aquaman to come out? Well, Superman should be on a milk carton. Haven't seen him in 5 years. So you
Other than
need
10 seconds of Black Adam.
Exactly. You need to Game of Thrones this to where every week people are like, wow, did you see that? Did you see that? And then you got them. They need to see you start something. They need to see you get in the middle of something, and they need to see you end something. That is something that they have failed to do in this, and since the modern era of comic book making. And by modern era, I mean 2010 and up. They have failed to prove to the common man. Forget the mark. Forget me. Forget the internet. Forget the pundit. They have failed to prove, and I found that out when I was talking to people who are not terminally online. They know when they've been left with an empty bag. On this platform, and you will allow these characters and IPs to grow simply because you're going directly to the consumer. You're not going through Rotten Tomatoes. You're not going to a quick cinema score. I can't even mouth them without laughing. You're not going through hearsay. You're not going through the Twitter wall of nonsense. You're going from your source material directly to their TV screen, and you're letting them judge. And you're getting a better response and a more accurate response of where you need to go. Because right now, and eventually, yes, get everything back on the big screen. But right now, it's a crapshoot, and it's wasting money, and it's wasting people's credibility. We're putting a lot of people's good work. A lot of people get good work on these movies that are going to end up with results that their movies don't deserve. So I say Game of Thrones it. Get it on TNT. Get it on TBS. Get it on these platforms. So where we're talking about, dude, when Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon is on the air, everybody's talking about that. Everybody's talking about that. And there's another thing about DC right now is too many pieces of absolute dog shit are allowed to control the perception of what DC films are. You get it on that platform, you get right into the brain of that customer. It's from you to him. Every Sunday night, when they see that static going, and then they see that DC going, and then you add on your Elseworlds to each of those levels, you have eliminated a lot of the filth and the clutter that gets in the way. I've seen so many people. There's a difference between when I look on this damn computer and when I actually go sit in the actual cinemas. It's like I'm on a different planet, and those are the people you need to get through. Those are the people who you need to make it. You make that path, that road so easy that nobody. It's a road that nobody else can drive on but you and them. The critics can. You know what? I know critics that hate Game of Thrones. That doesn't stop Game of Thrones from being successful. You know why? Because HBO shoots it right into your brain machine.
And think about how divisive the finale of Game of Thrones was, and it's like it didn't matter because it's like that. Well, I mean, monetarily anyway, it didn't matter because it's like that was the show was was so successful. It's like there was no stopping it. It's like they may have put out a finale that just a lot of people felt really shit the bed, but it's like it was the trust you're talking about was just so embedded through the Game of Thrones brand. It's like that was irrelevant with however much of a letdown the finale might have been.
And yeah. Brad, not only the letdown of the finale, but the 4 years between the finale and House of the Dragon, and House of the Dragon did awesome,
Exactly. But I have a friend.
I was going to make and I think sometimes I think House of the Dragon did well because of the horrible finale for Game of Thrones.
I could see that, yeah.
People were hoping it would be so much better, and it was. I mean, we got so many oh my god moments in House of the Dragon.
Well, you had oh my god
season.
First episode. Babies dying, people getting burnt to a crisp. First 10 minutes, bam.
I want to make a point to this continuity, completion, consistency thing that you've got up here, William. And I know I keep making the point that I'm not a huge DC fan. When it comes to DC, I see myself as general audience, okay? Consistency. Big issue. Okay?
Massive.
If you go back and count even just the last 20, okay, I won't go back 30 years. I'll go back the last 15, okay? We have the Nolanverse Batman movies that don't attach to anything. Good movies, but don't attach to anything. you have what Snyder tried to do, and now we've got and all the other little movies that came in and around the Snyderverse movies, and then you have what Gunn's planning on doing. And I have to say it, I look forward to Gunn's stuff, but like William said, he might be dead in the water because it's too little, too late. Okay.
One also to add into that, we also have the Batman and the Joker.
Oh, and the Batman and then the Joker movie. Yeah, there you go.
And you could also probably throw in Green Lantern in there too.
Exactly. And if you look at all of these things, like, okay, it's all over the place. Okay. And when it comes to the live action movies, the whole idea of multiverse has been in comics for 60, 70 years. Okay. Since the Flash of Two Worlds. All right. DC brought in the multiverse. Marvel's beating them at it. Okay? Marvel beat them to the punch in live action. DC should have done this multiverse. Should have been sticking the Elseworlds. If you wanted to have all these inconsistent continuities, they should have been sticking the Elseworlds title on everything.
Definitely. It should be a brand. The Elseworlds should be recognizable to me as the Bat. You know?
Yeah.
It's another thing I want to get to. Oh, by the way, and that's another thing that they've squandered. To that, like I've said this before, the squandering of telling multiple storylines when you could have done this. And in the Flash, in the movie, you see a lot of people resonated with the stuff that they did there with multiple Batman. I need this singular dinosaur logic of one Batman at a time. And I know Zaslav. Oh, we don't want 3 or 4 Batman. You also said you were going to be prioritizing theaters too. You know, you lied. But here's the thing, though, and I've heard the argument, and this is where we could have had a Ben Affleck Batman and been past that. We could have had all these things. We could have been past that. And I heard people say, well, that's going to be confusing because the water down the brand. No, you could have had your Matt Reeves Batman, and you could have had your Ben Affleck Batman when it was time for that. And whatever Muschietti's doing, I got room. I have more than 3 brain cells. I have enough room in my wallet and enough room in my brain for as many good Batmans you want to tell me. And nobody would get convoluted. It wouldn't go bad if you put 3 great Batman movies out. If you put 3 shitty ones out, yeah, people will get tired of it real quick. But Ben Affleck is not giving you a crappy Batman. Matt Reeves, you've already seen, is not. And Muschietti, I don't think he's capable of giving me a bad movie. So,
and the thing about what you're saying about the confused. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, again, I was going to make a point with this, and if we had any consistency over DC, we would not have certain aspects of the Snyder fandom being pissed off at everything. We wouldn't have DC fans at each other's throats over Snyderverse or not Snyderverse. We wouldn't have all this fighting if there had been some consistency over the years.
The fact that we're still talking about the hashtag right now at this point, I mean that in itself, I think is just such. It says so much about the mishandling over not just in all through the initial reshoots, but also the way they responded when it was initially released. Like 4 days later, you get that Ann Sarnoff interview that says, "Yeah, we're packing it up. No more of that." I mean, you don't do that, in the wake of something that gets the response like that, and certainly not when you get that 1.5 million tweet day. And it's like, I know the conversation around it.
And when we were talking about this. When we were talking about this on the Poindexter Lounge a year ago, okay, I told everybody, I got my first subscription to HBO Max because of Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Same.
And 2 other movies that were coming out in the same year, okay? And I watched Zack Snyder's Justice League. I was happy with it. It finally wasn't that Justice League crap. And I was getting back into being a huge DC fan because I was liking what I was seeing, even though that movie is long as hell. And then a couple of days later, Ann Sarnoff has to run her mouth.
Yeah.
And I went, damn, because now I'm never going to see... I mean, one of my favorite moments in all of Zack Snyder's Justice League is seeing Martian Manhunter show up at the end to talk to Bruce.
Oh, yeah, I love that too.
And to know that I'm not going to get that, a continuation of that, of what was going on there. I'm not going to get a continuation of the whole nightmare scenario, which I thought was freaking amazing.
Yeah. Completion. The second C.
And yeah, I mean, I hated that so much of the conversation around all these movies. It just drifts so much back to, the Snyderverse conversation.
It's never
but
going
like, again, that's like, but it's what you're saying there. It's the lack of continuity and completion and consistency, and what you had said, a minute ago about it's like you're not restoring your resolve, and even to that point, it's like, we have the roadmap. It's like we have the outlines. Like, restoring is tantamount to resolving anyway, because it's a finite arc with a defined conclusion. You can see it. So the guys, the Four Nerds, we love those guys. Yep. They did a motion comic out of it. It's awesome. Go check it out.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, and people get we keep coming back to the Snyder. I will say this again, and I will say this forever: wrecked runways lead to crash planes. You cannot get that beautiful brand new Airbus that you want to get flying off of a runway that is damaged. It just doesn't work that way. It's not. You can't blame. You created the chasm, and you're now trying to make everyone forget about it, when that is part of the trust factor. That is why if the average common man can't trust you, you're telling them to move on from something that was never complete onto your next thing that you may never complete. I'm looking at you like, fool me once, shame on me, and that's going to hurt your future. Your past, there is no future for DC without addressing the approaches and the lack thereof of its past. Now, I've already said this before. Give me sock puppets. I don't care. Give me a comic book. I don't care. Just give me a conclusion to it, and I'll be fine. I don't need Justice League 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. I don't need Man of Steel 2 and 3. I don't need all that. I be honest with you, with the mess that's been just created with just time, I don't even know if I want the beauty that was Zack Snyder's Justice League to continue in this world right now, because it's been so messed up. But I got comic books. I like I said, finger puppets. Do whatever you want. Whatever you can stick a script to, do it. I'm not one of these guys, even though I explained the dynamics of how a streaming service could work if you license it out, I always put the caveat in there that I wouldn't do it that way, but it could be done. Should it be done? It should be done on a streaming service called HBO Max or Max, whatever the fuck it is called now. But as far as that's all we've done is they've labeled people, and meanwhile, like I said, they created this, and now it is legitimately relevant to right now. It is legitimately relevant to whatever he's doing, because people aren't going to miraculously, trust you again. It's like, you cheat on your girlfriend. She might get back together with you, but she's always going to have that side eye about you. And it's going to be a long time before you guys fuck. All right. Sorry. It's going to be a long time.
To go off of what you were saying a little bit ago there, Thade, about DC should have been diving into the multiverse like as soon as they started making movies. I kind of wanted to get a sense of if this is kind of the way you guys felt, the same as I did, during the first DC fandom, because that was at that point we knew ZSGL was coming, and through Crisis on Infinite Earths and what they were setting up with the Flash movie, they were setting the table for the multiverse at that point, and they really played it hard at DC fandom. And I remember, for that, year or so from post announcement to fandom to, when it finally arrived in HBO Max, I mean, that might have been like some of the most excited I've ever been about DC, because it's like, I'm thinking at that time, it's like, the Snyder Cut, it's like, that's just the tip of the iceberg of what we're getting. It's like, we can get that. We can get the story completed. We got the Matt Reeves Batman universe unfolding. We got, we got the, Superman Lois show coming up. It's like, it felt like at that point in time, it's like, if you're a DC fan, I mean, you got a smorgasbord of all this stuff coming your way. And again, it's the Flash, at that point in time, if you had asked me what DC movie I was most excited for other than the Snyder Cut, I would have absolutely said the Flash, because of what they were playing up about it with the multiverse, with Keaton, with Affleck, and all the stuff they were doing. And having seen it now, I might have one or two nitpicks, but it largely lived up to pretty epically what I was looking forward to out of it. So, but again, it's like it's coming after this pattern of it. DC, they've been just in this sins of the father cycle, where every movie is just having to pay for how many times they've just pulled the rug out from under people. and just not finish what they started on so many different franchises. And really only Nolan, kind of got through that, with his trilogy. But I've kind of wondered, were other people kind of having that same temperature as I was during the first fandom, where it's like, finally this chaos, this nightmare of just trying to enjoy being a DC fan is coming to an end.
Yeah, and I was there, and I thought there was going to be some kind of cohesion for a while, but as we moved on, there was a lot of egos involved, and like I said, it's no mistake that those guys are gone. It just, it's not necessarily a direct byproduct, but they brought down the stature of the IP to the point where a $74 billion company became a $43 billion company with as much debt as they do in value. So that's not an accident. You are the sum of your parts when it comes to these corporations in most cases. But what has gone on though is just you made it needs to be simple. Consistency. When I show you something and it's really good, when you're selling me on a universe, then I already know that I'm coming back. I mean, and keep me coming back. It's that easy. And they couldn't even do that. And like I said, seeing the Flash last night and seeing other things that I missed the first time around, I really enjoyed the movie, and it should make a lot more money. But like I said, the same reason, and I hate to say this because I think, listen, James Gunn, and we'll go into it next here, made him and Peter Safran, who I think to me is emblematic of the previous regime, and he was part of the problem, but that's fine. Made a critical mistake with this movie that I think might hurt it. It might not have killed everything, but it just shows you we've cleaned out the house. We've cleaned out the house. The Hamadas are gone. The Sarnoffs are gone. The Emmerachs are gone. The Tishiharas are gone. The Johns are gone. And it's almost like it's in the carpet. It's in the drywall that you make mistakes immediately out of the gate. James Gunn, like I said, even if you were going to bring him in and give him this power, it should have not been a reactionary, wow, you got me. That's a great conversation. You're the boss. You should have called Abdi and DeLuca into the office and said, how can we make as much money off of what we have now and lead it into what you're doing seamlessly?
And it sounds like that's what they wanted to do initially.
And at that point, there should have been a definite defining point where DeLuca and Abdi run out their clock and where they hand the baton off to him seamlessly. Because what you have right now is not that. So, and it affects the movie. And you can't have an adult conversation about what may or may cause a movie not to do well without bringing up what has happened. Because once again, you're trying to take that Airbus into the air with no runway. You're a fool if you think you can get into the air without fixing that runway. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to imagine that and fans and anti-whatever people are trying to imagine that the wreckage just disappeared, hit the gas, pull the landing gear up, let's go. No, you're going to crash. So, oh, well, it is what it is. And like I said, this is all, we're talking at 10:38 Pacific time. I don't know what the movie's going to do internationally. And like I said, there's so many other ways that this movie can make money. It is worthy of hundreds of, but at the same time, I can't blame a fan for not jumping into the theater line. I can tell you that this movie is worth your money multiple times, but I will be a piece of shit liar to you if I told you to not take into account everything that's happened in the past 5 to 7 years, especially since 2017. I would be a fraud if I told you to do that.
To go off of what you're saying there, William, and we talked about this a bit earlier. The analogy I've made, you kind of made a little bit one there yourself. The analogy I made, being a DC fan, really again post 2017. I mean, it's with all these just false starts on things. They really, I've said it's like I don't think I'd be exaggerating to say it's like it's been akin to being in an abusive relationship. because so much of their business model has amounted to just one hand giveth, the other taketh away.
And that's us. That's us. You know what's worse than us busting a vein over this stuff over the past 7 years? You know what's absolutely way more damning than us? The common man just quietly walking away and not even giving us two thoughts. That's worse. I would rather have everybody in here, no matter whether they agree with you. I would rather have all 10 of us on here or whatever screaming at you on the panel and be, if I was running a studio, look at that and be like, you know what? At least they still care about my product. The majority of people are, it's become too complicated. They see you can pare this down. You can pare this down. Forget about the Snyderverse. Forget about the Snyder cult. Forget about the anti-Snyder knuckleheads. Forget about the stooges that lie in wait to bury a movie before it's even done. Forget about all those guys. The backbone of this industry is everybody but them, the other 98%ers. And you've made it really easy for them to just put down the DC toy and pick up something else that's shinier and easier to use. They're not going to come on the internet. They don't give a rat's ass about what Ezra Miller's doing. They don't care about, storyboards, this or that. They don't care about any of that. They don't care about Hamada. They don't know who those people are. They don't care about, you know what they care about? Wow, I like that Superman movie. That was really good. Wow, that BVS movie, I was part of the 871 million people that went and saw your movie. Wow, that was great. Can I get more of that? They don't need to be a scholar on any of this stuff to know they can count up to 5. 5 years it's been. Now, here you come back again like a relative that's been married 3 or 4 times and you change your name. I don't even know who the hell you are because you got a facelift in a job or whatever. You're coming back and say, hey, William, remember me from 5, 7, 8 years ago? And I'm like, you sort of smell like my old relative and the voice is recognizable, but can you kind of get away from me because you kind of look like a stranger? That's what DC is to the common fan now. They've made it too hard. The common man just wants to pick it up, push the button, and go. That's it. They want to go, and when they go and they like it, they want to go again. They want to jump from one cool experience to the next cool experience. And you didn't give them that as a company, DC. You gave them a cliff to jump off of and nowhere to land. And that's not the hate. That's just a common guy who will never know any of us. That just walks away quietly. You'll never know he was there. And that's damning.
And that's the thing. And it goes back to Flash as well. Okay, if you guys think about this, you'll know what I'm saying here. Most people that I've talked to in the general audience, they don't know Ezra Miller. Okay, they don't care. All right, who's this kid playing the Flash? But when you say Michael Keaton's in this movie, they're like, oh yeah, that's the guy who played Batman back when I was younger, And it's damning that that's what a lot of people are looking at, with the exception of the younger generation. That's damning, is that's what people are looking at. They're not going to the movie to see the Flash. They're going to the movie to see Keaton. They're going to the movie to see something from the late 80s, early 90s, okay? And this is the problem. It's like William says. It's like that relative that shows up. Oh, hey, I'm your Uncle Bingo. Well, unfortunately for WB right now, and here's a line out of the Batman '89 movie.
I know where you're going with this.
It's time to pay the check, WB. It's time to pay the check. And that's the problem. We keep having this discourse over what WB's been doing with DC for years. Too little, too late now. I want James Gunn's stuff to succeed personally, but I don't know that it will. And that's what makes me sad.
I'm going to put up the spoiler banner because we're about to jump into an article of what I think could be a critical mistake. So for those of you who have not seen The Flash yet, or don't mind having it spoiled, all that, I'm going to give you. We're going to put up the spoiler ticker right there. So there it is. While this is on, I will be briefly spoiling the movie. I'm going to jump into article, and it's mainly going to be the ending and what would happen with the ending. So let me get my 3 C's, my 4 C's off of there. But like I said, it's sad that I'm an idiot and I can see that, and they are college educated, Ivy League educated guys, and that's what they gave us. So All right, so this is going to be one of the few times that I'm going to use a Hollywood Reporter, which I think is usually just, but it's only because it's been verified through all kinds of other things, and it's no longer hearsay. So we're going to bring up this article about the ending. So, spoiler alert, everybody who wants to leave, I'm going to spoil part of the ending. All right, so there's a post-credit scene that involves a particular Batman, previous Batman from like almost 30 years ago, and it's George Clooney. That was not the original ending. There were 3 endings shot. One of them was under the Hamada regime that involved Sasha Calle's Supergirl and Michael Keaton's Batman ending up at the end congratulating Barry, and that's when he realizes that he has not restored the timeline. The second one was the one shot by that was done under Abney and DeLuca, and that had Henry Cavill's Superman and Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman in there doing the same thing. And then the third one is with the one that you who have seen the movie have seen, where it's Bruce Wayne gets out of the limo at the end, and instead of being Ben Affleck, that's at the beginning of the movie, it is George Clooney. That was done. That was a James Gunn call.
Again, Mike, William, can I just add real quick to what you were saying about some of those details? Like in the second ending, that also included Sasha Calle's Supergirl and Michael Keaton's Batman. And to kind of add a little bit to that, for anybody who's kind of had their ear to the ground a little bit on this,
Still
there
there?
was also.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, you paused.
Okay. Yeah. Did you hear all that I said about?
Yeah.
Sasha
No, I'm going to
Calle?
read this article. I didn't see the second one happen, but I'm going to go ahead and read it. So I can
Okay.
be. All right, here we go. All right. So present StreamYard. I hate you. I have to go through all this. Flash inside George Clooney. All right. So here we go. All right, Hollywood secrets have become notoriously hard to keep, but Warner Brothers and the filmmakers of The Flash pulled off a doozy with the final moments of the DC film. After more than 25 years, George Clooney returned to the role of Bruce Wayne, marking a remarkable change of heart for an actor who unequivocally was done with the role. Was not very good at it. It was a secret in the studio to keep tight for close to 6 months. In the mic drop movie moment, one that was left audiences howling. The Flash's final scene shows Barry Allen, Ezra Miller on the phone with Bruce Wayne. The phone call comes after a climatic courthouse hearing and Barry finally returning to his own Earth and timeline. Wayne pulls up to the courthouse in his car and gets out. The assembled crowd parts to reveal Wayne, played by Clooney, not Ben Affleck, as he had expected. All right, so let me get down to they explained. All right, The Flash, as it was originally conceived and shot, ended with the courthouse steps, with Supergirl played by Sasha Calle and Batman played by Michael Keaton, who was already featured throughout the movie as a return Batman. It was meant to highlight that Barry did not reset the timeline as he thought he did. It was an ending that was screen tested several times, one that reversed the deaths of Supergirl and Batman earlier in the film. However, the movie got caught in the lightning storm that was Discovery's acquisition of Warner Brothers in 2022. Emmerich and Hamada were ousted, thank God. And Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav was on the hunt for an executive to run DC in the meantime. In the meantime, Michael DeLuca and Pam Abdy were installed as Warner Brothers Pictures Group chairpersons and CEOs. They were tasked with overseeing DC in the meantime, and suddenly and certainly not expectedly, they had their own plans, which were cardinal mistake number one was made. I think they should have been allowed to go run out their clock into his, but we've already gone over that. The new Flash ending was conceived. This new version was still on the courthouse steps, but now Kai's Supergirl was joined by Superman. All right, you're right. Superman, played by Henry Cavill, and Wonder Woman, played by Gal Gadot. Keaton also remained. DeLuca and Abdi believed that they were being strategic with the ending. Cavill was going to do a cameo for DC movie Black Adam and was being teed up to return in the role in a brand new Superman movie that should have happened. Supergirl was retained because even though the executives were killing the development of a standalone Supergirl movie, they were open to her returning in some form and didn't want the last image of audience to saw her to be her death at the hand of Superman and Michael Janin saw it. But that was the right decision in my opinion. Meanwhile, the studio was developing a certain installment of Wonder Woman with filmmaker Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot. This was a nice way to keep Wonder Woman in the cultural conversation. This ending shot in September involving Miller, Cavill, and Godot, as well as Keaton and Kaye. Then came another lightning strike. November, Zaslav announced that filmmaker James Gunn and producer Peter Safran were to run DC Studios, overseeing all DC film and television efforts. And suddenly, and not certainly and unexpectedly, they had their own plans. Knowing that they were resetting the DC universe under their vision, Gunn and Safran saw that having Cavill and Godot in the new ending was potentially promising something their plans were not going to deliver. One of the first actions the duo took was to scrap Cavill's Superman film and parted ways with Jenkins, effectively killing the Wonder Woman, the third Wonder Woman installment. So, problem number one I have with that. If you think that something is going to be construed that you're delivering something that you are not going to, then you are James Gunn. You are in the captain's chair, Kirk. You make that clear, and you engineer along with Abdi, just like Henry Cavill on this screen right here, got up in front of a crowd full of people in Brazil and said, "This is my final season," and had people cheering and just that had as much love. You could have easily let people know that these are the last hurrahs for these characters, and we are going to run out that clock, and then we are going to end them. When you are the communicator, if you tell me, like I always say, resolve the Snyderverse, hidden in the Snyderverse, conclude the Snyderverse. That's what you say. If they're not in your future plans, leave them in the movie. You run that clock out. You find a way to consolidate. And that should have been Abdi and DeLuca's thing. And that's where their run should have ended with DC Films, and his began. This of the three endings that we got, I'm sorry, we got the worst one. I like those other two.
Well, and William, to kind of follow off of that also, this is something that this may get reported on, in the near future. And, if you had your ear to the ground enough on The Flash, which, full disclosure, I have on this, there was also to be, another scene after that. It was actually going to, my understanding was it was going to show the Flash. It was basically going to be like a reversal of the BVS kind of Flash message to Bruce, where it's like, find us, you have to help us. And it was going to basically.
Can you repeat that? You cut out on my end. It was going to show.
Yeah, it was the next scene apparently was going to be a reversal of the BVS. Kind of.
Oh yeah, with him coming through, warning. Yeah.
Yeah, and but it was going to be this time. It was going to be Affleck talking to him, so that was going to, imply that it's like it is going to leave questions like, okay, what's happened? Like, how is we swapped Keaton for or swapped Affleck for Keaton in this universe? He has to go get Affleck back, that kind of thing.
Everything you needed to end this story arc was right there, and you could end it quickly. You could end it cheaply, and you just they made a conscious choice not to do that, and that's fine. Every decision has a consequence, though, and when you make these decisions, it leads to credibility issues. Those three endings, they legit picked the worst one. I like George Clooney in another way. Hey, listen, another 60-year-old dude looking like that. Even with your gray beard, screw you, man. All right. Anyway, but nothing against George Clooney, but I'm like, the reasoning why they changed that ending, it just makes me not trust anything going forward. I'm not rooting against James Gunn. I'm going to go see his movies, and his stuff intrigues me, and I think he's an awesome storyteller. But instead of being that guy with the sign in the front row in the arena, I'm still watching the game, but I'm at home watching it from the safety of my own home because I've invested the time. And this decision that they just made, that's a ghost of the predecessor's decision-making. Even though I have all the hope in the world for this new regime, that's the kind of stupid-ass decision that those guys made. And it goes back to completion, consistency. What is so hard about putting a bow on something for this company? People are watching. People are not going to take the mystery bag that you have in your right hand when they already have in their own hands a bag of shit that you've been giving them. It's about trust. And they're going to need, if anybody is going to have any success, they're going to have to trust you with their money. That's why I say put it on Max. Put it on Max. You go directly. Your pipeline is from your production, your what you're selling directly to them. I don't have to worry about the clowns waiting, for the ink to dry on contracts so they can jump on the movie, because they're waiting. They're out there. They're in the bushes waiting to jump on Superman Legacy. Soon as they name the actor, that guy's not going to be the perfect guy for them. They're going to crap on the movie. Soon as they hear the script, they're going to put on their man diapers and they're going to take a dump in their diapers and they're going to run around the house screaming, "That's not my Superman." So we're going to be in the same spot. So it's like you can enter into those things if you have the credibility of knowing that you're going to stick with it. Right now, I have zero faith that they're going to stick with. James Gunn has a 10-year plan, and he's got a less than a 4-year contract now, and a lot of that is going to be delayed.
Writer's strike, yeah,
writer strike and all that. So
probably an actor strike coming up.
How old is David Zaslav? Because his primary backer is the guy who gives, who fuels all this is David Zaslav. Is David?
I got it.
I'm pretty sure.
I got it, William.
Yeah. How old is he?
Hold on just a second. I'm getting there.
No, I know he's got to be on the curb of 70.
He is currently 63.
He can't be that young.
He was born January 15th, 1960.
Then he's 67.
63.
Wait a minute. No, he's got to be older than that.
He's not, William.
He's been drinking some hard.
I just looked it up.
Has he been? Oh, dude, what was he doing?
Cocaine.
Oh, that's mess. That. Hold on, dude. Where did you look that up? Oh my goodness.
I have to do whatever Dark Flash was doing.
Man, he needs to clone himself. But anyway, okay, 63. How much longer do you think he's going to stay on the job? Wow, he looks like shit. No, I'm just kidding. David, if you're watching, I thought you were much older because you look much older. Whew, that's a rough 63. But okay, 63. So, okay, by the time we get these movies out, 66 years old, a lot of these guys cash out right around here. All right, so let's say he's there, but you still have people answer to shareholders. This is, this all becomes sketchy. I even say 10 years from now. So let's split the difference a little bit. Let's say 7 years from now. So that would put us right in the middle of what James Gunn is doing, correct? That puts him at 70. So right in the middle of his 10-year plan, we could have a different philosophy.
And Gunn's not that far behind him. He'd be around 63 or 64 at that point.
Yeah, and also you look at the fact that you could get bought out. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to buy WBD because with the debt, but you could happen. By that time, they would be legally allowed to be. There's so many things that can happen. So not only do I not trust them, I don't trust the circumstances that they're standing on. You push this so far into the future. I don't care. I'm really trying real hard to get people are telling, William, what do you think about the casting of this guy? The movie's probably not coming out to 2026. I'll be like 90, dude. I mean, I'm barely getting excited about next Thursday. It's really hard for me to care about. And even in Marvel's the same thing. Marvel just pushed all their stuff back to 2027? You're literally going to be, not this presidential election coming up. You're going to be gearing up for the next presidential election by the time some of this stuff gets out. How am I getting excited about that? I'm sorry. Maybe some of you guys that are teenagers will be like, I'll be in my, be in my mid-20s and 30s by the time you get all this stuff ground. That's great for you, but hell, shit, me and Thade will be in our 50s. It's so hard to get excited about that. So yeah. that's all I have on the Flash. Like I said, this is all based on what we know now as far as numbers goes. Those numbers could come out tomorrow international. We could look like clowns tomorrow, and in China could have whatever, India could have brought it home. We don't know. Because I do think the majority of the money, just like Fast and the Furious and some of the other movies, are going to is going to be made overseas anyway, just like Aquaman was, just like, and that's, that's fine. They seem to not give a rat's ass about some of the things that we sit around and think about. So,
and also to go off of that, what you were just saying about Marvel and also about Fast and Furious, which I know you've completely gone off of the Fast and Furious train, which they have, they both have a different problem, but also a better problem, for lack of a better term, than DC does. DC has the problem, as you're saying, of like the inconsistent follow-ups, the not finish you through on anything. Marvel and Fast and Furious, they have a different problem, but it's more manageable. They have the problem of diminishing returns because they have the problem of the audience is getting fatigued, but there are ways to get around that. And to kind of with Marvel specifically, I have a coworker, another writer at Screen Rant. So Adrian, you're getting a shout out right now. And if you've seen us kind of banter back and forth on Twitter, it's like I tease her relentlessly where she's kind of ready to hang up her hat on Marvel, but they just keep announcing things that excite her. And I just I'll send her a gift of Shang Tsung saying "Your soul is mine." That's like what Feige saying. But
it's called brand name loyalty. Hey,
exactly.
Let's get to somebody. I've been I'm horrible with the chat today, so let's hit as many chats as we can before we move on.
Hold on, I'm handling something real quick.
Uh-oh. But yeah, that's where we're at with the Flash. Like I said, there are people, and I saw this weeks ago because we're promoting. Full disclaimer, we're promoting the Flash, but we've promoted movies for Warner Brothers that sucked, and I've said it on there. The people, there seems to be a culture of sitting online and just burying a movie, not just the Flash. This has become a huge problem, and it's one of the reasons why I'm not on Twitter. I'm on Twitter more than I was before, but I avoided Twitter. I avoided a lot of this stuff before because going back to BBS, you had stooges that just basically sat around destroying the movie before it was even released.
Oh, I can't even tell you how many people
they're cheering. Listen, go ahead.
I can't even tell you in the lead up to BBS. I mean, yeah, you're talking about people like you just trying to just completely tamper down on any upcoming Superman. I mean, I can't even tell you like when BBS was coming out initially, and the slate that was announced at that point, under Zack Snyder's kind of stewardship of it. I mean, I can't tell you how many people used to tell me it's like, but they're not. Everybody's got to get a solo movie. They're not doing that. This movie's just doomed to failure. The discourse around that was the discourse around that at the time. And
listen. If you think a movie is gonna ruin your life, don't go see it.
Yeah, well, okay. Look, I've said this time and time again till I'm blue in the face. If a movie ruined your life or stole your childhood or I don't know whatever excuse else you want to make, you're weak. Okay.
Unless it's Howard the Duck and Williams.
Nobody walked into your house and took away your Star Wars, the original trilogy from you. Nobody walked into your house and took away Batman from you. Nobody walked into your house and took any of these things away from you. IPs change. Fandoms change. Either you change with them or you find something else you can enjoy.
But why are you ruining? Why I see so many people rooting for the Flash to fail. What is? Just don't watch it. Was it that hard? You know what? There are some really crappy movies that are being released this year. There have been some really crappy movies released in my lifetime. We've already gone over several of them. But you know what? I'm not going to twist my intestines in a knot rooting for them to fail. Dudes with my car made money from somebody. I didn't go see it, but you didn't see me, with a sign out in front of the cinema saying, I need this movie to fail.
Yeah, William still has nightmares about Howard the Duck.
Man, your rants on Howard the Duck, it's like it's half the reason to watch this show.
Hey.
At least
Ducky love, William. Ducky love.
At least we didn't have the internet back then.
And that's the problem right now with the discourse, William. The internet. Too many terminally online people who are worried about the lives of people that don't worry about their lives. Okay? Too many people paying attention to, and I've made this point again before, too many people paying attention to Ezra's life. Okay? When 20 years ago, RDJ did worse, and he still came back and became Iron Man.
Yeah, and then they're like, well, RDJ was held accountable. I'm like, listen, we have a court system and a legal system that can hold any actor that it's on my screen accountable. And unless I'm on that jury, that is not part of my criteria, when I go see that movie. So, and it's like, it's sad. I mean, rooting for a movie to fail as if they took your money, whether you went to go see it or not. It'd be different if they picked your pocket and said, I'm going to take this $15, whether you like this movie or not, and I'm going to give it to the studio. No, you had the option to stay home, but you spent time out of your day. I'm glad it failed. I'm like, what? It's just I will never get used to that. I know that's the culture, but it's kind of a sick culture. It's kind of a pathetic culture. So hey, let's hit some of these chats because I'm bad.
All right. Well, there's only a few that are relevant. Most of it's just cross talking in the chat, which is fine. We got a $5 super chat from Fourth 1000. Thank you, Fourth, for the $5. He says, bad movies don't ruin childhoods, but they do destroy public opinion on the thing that you like that has done a disservice. Not necessarily. It may destroy public opinion for a few people, but not the general public.
The new Crow could suck. The new Crow could have the Crows singing and dancing and singing a Rick James song. It's not going to hurt the Brandon Lee movie. The Brandon Lee movie is always going to be the Brandon Lee movie. And if anybody's perception his opinion is changed. If you walk up to somebody, or say if you're a Crow fan or whatever the fan it is, and they make a bad Crow movie, and that's all that person has ever seen, you know what you do? You make sure that they go see the 1994 version of The Crow, or whatever it is in the movie. You make sure that they see what you think is the gold standard. You change their opinion there.
And to ping pong off of what you're just saying there, it's like, bad movies don't ruin your childhood or ruin the brand, but bad handling of good ones will, as we're seeing with DC.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
The Crow musical, I'm down. Yes.
We need to delete that out.
Hey, look, we're getting Joker the musical, okay? That's all I'm saying.
Do that with Eric Draven, like doing like Tom Jones. Is that unusual?
That would be hilarious.
Next, I got to cleanse my mind. All right, what's going on next? Let's see.
Okay, hold on. Get rid of that. Okay, Hunter Iggy says, William Powell, what is your thoughts on DC fans give up on the DCU movies, not having interest in DCU? We pretty much kind of explained all this, really.
Yeah, I can't blame them. I don't want that to be the case, but I can understand. I can understand. Next one.
Chappie says, William, what do you think the reason is? Because The Flash hasn't done well to box office.
We spent the first hour on that one, Chap.
Yeah.
I would answer again, but I rewind that for I pretty much, and I scroll back to where you see my little screen up. That's where I gave a pretty good detailed answer then. So
Chappie again says, question, do you guys think that after the Flash bombing that they're going to cancel Aquaman or just put it on Max's streaming instead?
No, I think they're going to put it on the shortest theatrical run they could possibly can, which was their plan no matter what the Flash made, in my opinion. That's my conspiracy theory. And they're going to put it in for the minimum amount, and then they're going to push that MILF magnet into the platforms where they get the most money off of, and that's going to be streaming and VOD.
Plus, it's out during Christmas, so it's like they're going to want to, they're going to want to get as much of that holiday season money as they can out of it.
Yeah, after that first 2 weeks, you're going to see an Aquaman steelbook. You can buy it. You can pre-order your Aquaman steelbook right now, and that's what's going to happen.
We discussed the 3 endings here, so thank again, Chappie. Yeah. Sorry it took a while for us to get to this.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm horrible.
We all three had a bunch to say about the situation. And then we have, to Thade's point, the DCU was 14 years and 6 movies with a beginning, middle, and end. Oh, he's talking about the animated universe. When I was talking about the DC animated universe has consistency, and he's right. That's why I enjoy DC Universe animated more than I've ever enjoyed the live action stuff. So
I mean, think about that for a second. It's like we had 5 seasons, of the Justice League animated series, and it's like the first live action Justice League movie. It's something that the fandom just had to pry out of Warner Brothers with the jaws of life.
Yeah, but you also have like seamless move too. You went from Batman the Animated Series to Superman the Animated Series to the Justice League show there was at one point for about, like he says, 16 for 14 years, there was consistency in the animated universe, and it worked. Hell, I'm still working on watching those movies. You know what I'm saying? It's
Absolutely,
just
yeah.
it's just one of those things of, if you can do it in the animated, why the hell have you not been doing it in live action?
Well, and they had a good run too with the animated movies. That started with Justice League Origin, I think it was. As far as like their connected animated movies, it started that, and then they wrapped that up with Apocalypse War, and that all the in between of that is one cohesive, connected, universe.
All right, next one.
That's everything.
Okay. All right, so Laser Look Gaming, my friend, hate this movie, and I was like, "Well, dude, if you hate The Flash, then why'd you go see it?" I just don't get, dude. That's time that you ain't getting back. All right, so what else is on my thumbnail here? What else are we talking? Did we talk to CM Punk already?
Yeah, no.
We talked a little bit.
Go ahead and talk CM Punk, because I'm gonna spend some time talking about the Netflix TUDUM thing today too.
Okay. All right, so 10 months in the making, CM Punk came out and gave a great promo. He buried half the company, which is what he does. Buried some of the founders of the company, if you know what I mean. It's all Elite Wrestling. And man, did I need to see him back on that screen. People were telling me Punk is done. That's it. It's over. And no, I said right then, and go back to when they had that brawl. I knew damn well there's no way Tony Khan is going to leave the money that CM Punk represents on the table. It's just not just not going to happen. So now we got him back, and he comes out with a bag that clearly has the AEW World Championship belt in it. And I loved it because he did that in WWE where he got suspended or something happened and they crowned a new champion and it ended up being John Cena. And I remember him interrupting John Cena's promo and he comes out with the belt. Both him and John Cena had Disputed World Championships and they had to wrestle for the disputed championship. John Cena, he ended up beating John Cena. But to me, and he's coming back as a face, which is he's a face in name only, but he's playing that jaded type character, and they're setting up an MJF CM Punk matchup. Which if you watched a couple of my shows a couple of weeks ago, I imagine that was what they would do because I'm like, Punk was never pinned. That would be cool if he came in and he interrupted MJF wearing the belt. And they faced each other at AEW All Out in Wembley Stadium. That's your main event right there. That would be great. So I couldn't believe that it was coming to fruition when I saw it tonight. But CM Punk was great. He was received well. Collision. This was Collision's debut episode, which was great. I mean, I miss Saturday night wrestling. Granted, it when I back in my day, it was afternoon, 3:00 in the afternoon. But I will take 5 p.m. Pacific time starting time. I miss Saturday night wrestling with a passion, and I'm glad it's back. So I know the majority of you. I know there was some wrestling comments in the chat. So I hope I addressed you guys. So I'm gonna look before I give it over to Thade and go to the bathroom. I'm gonna look in some of the chat and pick out some of the ones that I may have seen. Okay. This is probably a while back. He might even be here. Cinema Score is the best statistical representation of how the general audience reacts to a film. The studios look at it for a reason. But here's the thing. You have to take into context. Under no universe or solar system I live in. And I love Black Adam. I have fun with Black Adam. But Black Adam is not The Flash is a different class of movie than Black Adam is. So that alone tells me what Cinema Score means to me. Sorry.
Well, and also, like as I mentioned earlier, it's like because people have put a lot of those side-by-side comparisons of Cinema Scores around Twitter. It's like Thor: Love and Thunders is also better than The Flash. That's
a fucking horrendous movie.
I don't know what to say to that.
One of my favorite actors of all time.
Russell Crowe, yeah.
That is the most painful 10 minutes of Russell Crowe that I've ever experienced. I want to unremember those. Remember Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind? I wish they could have that machine that took that 10 minutes out of my brain. And I think Russell Crowe is one of the greatest actors of his generation. But his Zeus was painful to watch.
We were not entertained.
Right. So yeah.
And
Listen,
see, that's my thing about the Marvel movies, because I said earlier I'm a bigger Marvel fan of the Marvel live action stuff. I can pick and choose what I want to watch of the Marvel stuff. And people are like, well, you can't do that because you'll miss something. I'm like, yeah, that's what YouTube is for. If I don't want to watch a certain movie, if I've heard horrible things about a certain movie from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I don't have to watch it. I can go look at a little video and explain to me what happened during that movie. Okay.
You know how selective I've gotten on Marvel post Endgame. It's like
I didn't watch Miss Marvel, and that's not like that's not saying that I thought it would suck or anything. It's just not something I was very interested in. But I know what happened during that show. I didn't watch Love and Thunder. I haven't watched Quantumania because either one of those movies just don't appeal to me. Yeah. The stuff that I've wanted to watch, I've watched.
Yeah, I learned that lesson. I'm not going to go to every Marvel movie like I did the first wave. All right, The Flash has a Snyderverse cast, and the general audience still didn't show up or care, even though the movie made an attempt of continuing and offering a resolution. Well, once again, they didn't really make a clear attempt, even though there is one in there if you're watching.
Yeah, yes, there is continuity with ZSJL, in The Flash for anybody watching who hasn't seen it. We'll leave that unspoiled, but
and hold on, when you talk about this movie, we're talking about like a post-mortem, like if we've got the final numbers and we don't. Andy Muschietti is going to be able to go wherever the hell he wants to, regardless of the box office outcome. They did not sign him to a first look deal. They did not give him Batman Brave and the Bold because they're going to pull back all the Flash and do well. They thought the Flash was good, so that's why they gave him this movie. So who knows? He could come out and say, you know what? I don't care if the Flash lost $60 million. They've given me the chair. I got my contract. I'm putting Sasha Kai in. He can do whatever he wants. And the way the time is explained leaves it open for that. So let's be fair. I'll be fair about that. But back to RJ's point, I can't blame the fan when the management ran out the clock and didn't do what they were supposed to do with the frequency they were supposed to do it in. Just because they come back and do certain right things in their own time doesn't mean that my customer is going to stay engaged.
It's been a day late and $1 short.
Yeah. It's my job. If I'm selling something to you, it is my job to keep you engaged, not the other way around. I'm supposed to make it easier for you to buy this damn comic book. I'm supposed to make it easier for you to buy that pop figure. You shouldn't have to come into my store, digging through my store to find the pop figure you want. I should have that ready for you. And when you come back, I should know what you want, and I should have everything ready for you. That is not your job as the customer to be doing the groundwork that the damn production company is supposed to be doing. That is 100% on them.
And to also go off of that, which I actually had an article go about this with without spoiling anything, some of the connective tissue with the ZSJL that is established in the Flash. Andy Muschietti, I mean, it's like what he inserts there that puts these movies in synchronicity. It's like, I mean, he was doing what the old regime should have been doing. With that, the effort that he was making with that. It's again, it goes back to what I said a minute ago about the Ann Sarnoff article. It's like you just came out when you have this new release, you're actively trying to undermine it, and this is the chickens coming home to roost on that.
Okay, this is what happens when you just read shit online. The Batman already proves that the audience wants nothing to do with the Snyderverse. How the hell does that prove anything? I saw the Batman. So you read my mind? Were you sitting next to every single one of us in the movie theater? Did you poll people? Did you ask people? Just because I enjoyed the Batman, which I did, it's my favorite overall Batman movie. What in the hell does that have to do with my desire or engagement with anything that Zack Snyder did?
I love Superman and Lois. It's like that doesn't impact that at all on me.
Yeah. What the hell does that have to do with my desire to ever see something from that universe again? How does that prove anything? You have as much time as you need to answer that question, dude. All right. Go ahead, Dave, with the TUDUM stuff.
All right. So today, Netflix had its streaming informational. Basically, it's fandom, as it were, talking about stuff that's coming out over the next year, and a lot of their new projects. They had it down in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And there was I clipped out a few things, little clips and stuff. They said during the live stream that you can play the trailers and stuff if you're doing YouTube stuff. They want you to spread it to Twitter and all that stuff. So we're good to play these trailers that I'm going to bring up. But there was a lot of good stuff. And while I still got William here and some of our Zack Snyder fans in the chat, one of the things they dropped. One of the things they dropped was some Rebel Moon stuff.
And it looks gorgeous.
Let me go over and real quick bring that up. Give me just a second. Library. I made a playlist on YouTube for this stuff. Where are my lists?
Also, finally got some a little bit about Avatar and the Last Airbender, Netflix's version of that, but not coming out till next year.
I'm gonna bring all that up.
Not coming out till next year. That's a real bummer for me as as an Avatar fan.
At least you ain't waiting until 2027 or 2026.
Exactly. So, the wait is less brutal with Avatar than it is with DC stuff. I don't have to hashtag for any of it either.
The floor is yours, Dave.
Yeah, I'm trying to find. I made a playlist on all this stuff so I could show this stuff, and I can't find my damn playlist. Hold on a minute.
Why are you doing that?
Lord.
I'm not gonna say that conclusively, because I can't tell the future, but I know that the approach needs to change. I know that like I said, the company. The CEOs and the people doing the stuff have to stop thinking like and reacting to fanboys and start making something that appeals to everybody and gaining the trust of everybody. The online community is 3% of the overall fan base. Roughly, it's nowhere near the non-terminally online. And if they continue to use these approaches, anytime reboot is in your toolbox, either before, during, or after, you're going to fail. That's my opinion. If you have the reboot wrench in your toolbox, whether you have used it, whether you're going to use it, or whether you're considering use it, you've already failed, in my opinion. So I hope he continues to do a selective reboot. I hope he picks good aspects of what he is. But once again, let me see if I can get us back on.
Hope we didn't just lose the whole stream on your channel there.
It said after copyright materials no longer detected, streams will automatically be re-enabled. So,
are we going again?
I can't tell.
Yeah, guess we gotta give him a sit rep when we get back on.
Yeah, I'll text it in the thing right now. Somebody texted in the chat. Hold on.
Why would that be? I mean, wasn't the whole point to get the word out on that today? Why would that be copyrighted?
I say it's back. Let's see. No, I'm still suspended on my. All right, chat. Can you see us? We're back. No, I heard myself again. Oh, hold on. I think we're coming back online. There we go. All right. Well, that sucked.
We can tell you it looks great in Rebel Moon.
Way to go, Thade. No, I'm just kidding. Why? What? That's stupid.
Yeah, I don't get that either. They're trying to market this movie.
I thought the whole point was for us to put that out. They had it on YouTube today.
The Netflix people on the thing said that it was fine. We should share it out if we had YouTube channels, Twitter, stuff like that. But what could have got us, and somebody said it in the chat, the music from the background music, because they were saying share the trailers. So I might have gotten us hit with the music. Sorry about that.
Well, anybody watching at home, we can tell you that Rebel Moon does look fantastic nonetheless.
Looks great.
Well, they saw part of it. They got to see part of it.
It looks great. I mean, I cannot wait for Rebel Moon.
Yeah, it's like that's like it's just. I mean, it's Zack Snyder doing a variation on Star Wars. I mean, come on.
Just seeing everybody who should still be working at DC up on the stage today. Cavill,
Henry and Gal there too. Yeah.
Henry was there for The Witcher. And they basically, like William said earlier, he said that, Henry came on stage. They were talking about how it was his last season of The Witcher, and he talked to him. He talked to the crowd. He did pretty well on that. See,
and that's good that they know they're.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's good that they're putting that into the marketing because people can go into that knowing that this is the finale, at least as far as he's concerned.
It's easy to do. You can just tell. Listen, and I know I'm going to get labeled. It could be Snyderverse back now. I think no matter what you did, no matter what it was, I don't care if it's Thade goes to the park with his dog, parts 1, 2, and 3. If you gave me Thade goes to the park with his dog, part 1, and you didn't give me part 2 and 3, and you come back with Brad Curran takes his dog to the park, part 1, 2, and 3. You think I'm going to trust Brad Curran's? You think I'm going to go pay to see that, or I'm going to care about that? No. And that's where we're at now. It's not talking in circles. It is exposing the fact that there is a circle that is there. You will always come back to this until it is resolved. You will always have a credibility issue. And be honest with you, as expensive as these movies are, and it is really hard to miss. When you miss with these movies, you miss, and it sets you back a while. And RJ's right. If what James Gunn does not take hold, it could set you back for a good 10 years. So make sure your runway is prepared before you try to take that plane off.
And to answer your question, Fourth,
you had a super chat.
They didn't say that they were going to write him off organically. Hold on, let me bring this in. They didn't say anything about how they're going to write him off the show. They just mentioned that it was his last season. He came out on stage and was with them, with the cast. That was about all that really happened with that. They didn't give any actual information on how that they're going to handle his leaving the show. So
I think they're just going to recast him.
Well, it's going to be Liam Hemsworth who's going to be the new Geralt on the show, and they showed a clip too of a fight scene that looks pretty cool.
And we got a $5 super chat from Fourth 1000. Thank you, Fourth. It says DC should reboot. Snyder's characters have been slaughtered enough. All of them plus Keaton couldn't save a Flash movie. Time to bury it. Can't say I disagree, man.
But once again, even if let's say I agree with it. What's next? You've now taken, you've now pretty much screwed your pooch, and you're going to expect someone to come back to that same farm. See, it's not about whether they should reboot or not. To be honest with you, I don't think that's the fix-all answer. It's whether anyone's going to care once you do. If you look at the damage that has been done right now to the last few movies that DC has put out, it's rebooting. You can do whatever you want. Are you ready to suffer those consequences that the Flash may have suffered? Are you ready to suffer the consequences that Shazam has suffered? Are you silly enough to think that James Gunn's movies aren't going to suffer the consequences of this? And you think there's some miracle vacuum in which these decisions are going to affect his movies? And those movies already have an uphill battle to begin with because they're taking 80-year-old characters that everyone has an interpretation of and basically making them their own. You're already under the gun, pun intended there. So now you're going to go into that with zero credibility that you can even finish anything? I mean, go ahead. But I think it's foolish not to think that if there is not some type of repair work done to these foundations, that we're going to end up on the same broken bridge in 5 years or less.
And to go off of that too, with another thing that's DC related, we got the news that there's been some alterations to the Superman and Lois season 4, which the writing is pretty much on the wall. That's going to be the final season, but I would anticipate they're probably going to be very forthcoming about that. And again, when you go into that with the advantage of knowing this is going to be the finale, again, it's a finale. You're getting that ending. You're getting this is where all roads have led. This is the conclusion. We're not leaving loose. We're not leaving loose threads dangling for 20 years that just didn't get resolved. And that's a corner of DC that, if that's what they're going to do with Superman and Lois season 4, which I very much anticipate that is, they're closing that loop.
That's it. If I were going to watch a CW show, which I'm not going to, but if I were going to go on, you have now treated me, your customer, in a way that allows me to trust you with the next thing. So if this group of people were to put out something else, no matter what went on with Superman and Lois, I trust them to follow through. That's what this is all about. This isn't about the Snyder anything. This isn't about this is something that you can apply to anything that you're trying to gain the trust of. People have to understand that you are going to follow through, or they're just not going to come back. Like I said, you can only screw your customers so many times before they don't come back. And then you'll want to blame them. Well, they never came back. Well, you gave them nothing to come back for. You gave them pieces of things here. You gave them pieces of things there. You gave them, you knew what the expectation was with what you were selling, and you didn't meet it. And you tried to fill the void with things that just weren't up to snuff. And then when those things failed because those people weren't going to show, that just proves that no, it didn't. It proves that you fucked up. That's what it proved.
One JL move. Well, one horrendously reshot version of JL, and then getting the real version of it in your connected franchise over this long a period of time.
No one should have had to beg to get the movie that should have been released in the first place. Granted, it wasn't going to be a 4-hour cut, but it was going to be better than that mess that they got to the theater.
Kind of going off of that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Listen, half of Marvel's movies to me were a waste of time doing that first phase. But they still have a lot more credibility with me than DC does, because regardless of how silly I thought some of the stuff that they did was, they followed through. I am not wanting for what happened with Iron Man. I am not lacking for the America was put on. You may not have agreed with how they ended the characters when they ran them out, but they ran their clock. They ended their road. They told you the story that they meant to tell you, and they finished it. I trust you now with another shot with more characters. You will continue to get my money. I won't go away. But when you leave me hanging, I'm going somewhere else. Has nothing to do with being a Snyder bro. Has nothing to do with being a cultist. Has nothing to do with being whatever. It has something to do just basic retail. Eventually, you will have a cumulative effect when you don't follow through, when you don't give completion. And Marvel knew that. They ran it throughout the entire course. I know I saw the beginning of Tony Stark's arc. I saw the middle of Tony Stark's arc, and I saw the end of Tony Stark's arc. And they've done that over and over again, regardless of whether I agree with the content and how it plays out. They kept that same schematic that you have to have no matter what it is you're selling. Movies, comic books, doesn't matter. You have to, your people need to know that you're going to follow through, or else good stuff comes out like The Flash or things like Shazam, and they're going to keep their distance because they don't trust you. It has nothing to do with whether the movie's good or not. They don't trust you. And it's the common fan. Us geeks are there, man. We're there. We're watching it. We're there because we don't have anything better to do. But the common guy he's not lensed in on us stuff. There's so many things that is competing for the common man's dollar, the non-geek dollar, and you just can't allow apathy to be on the menu. And that's what they've done. They've made it so easy to put down the DC toy and then be shocked when it's there laying on the ground and they've moved on to something else. You just can't do that. So,
and I guarantee a lot of those burned DC fans, they are going to be diving headfirst into Rebel Moon.
Yeah.
Which I what you were just saying about the 4-hour runtime on Jail. I did also kind of want to. This wasn't mentioned at the TUDUM event today, but I kind of want to get your thoughts on. Zach has mentioned that there's going to be 2 cuts of Rebel. There's going to be one that's going to be kind of the PG-13 version, and one that's going to be. He hasn't really said R-rated, but like more adult skewing, something like that. And I guess maybe that's going to be kind of delineated with the theater run it's going to have. But I was kind of wondering your thoughts on that.
I am going to see the adult version. I'll probably watch them both just because it'll give us something to talk about. But just knowing that there's that version out there, that's the one I want. I mean, I'm an adult. Give me my 3Ds, damn it. Give me my 3Ds. I can't wait for this. This movie's going to be so fucking awesome.
So some of the other stuff, I guess I'm not going to show the trailers like I'd planned to.
Yeah.
Some of the other stuff that they, even though they told us to, anyway, some of the other stuff that they showed today at the TUDUM event was, for all the anime fans out there, they showed the live action One Piece trailer and information on that show. They showed the live action Avatar: The Last Airbender stuff, which looked really good. In my opinion,
fantastic.
Let's see. They showed Wednesday season 2 up there. She came out and said some stuff on a recording.
Yeah.
They showed a table read with the Cobra Kai group.
Pass.
You may pass.
I know.
I want that last season.
I'm down. I'm so down.
I would have lost so much money when I heard of Cobra Kai. I'm like, this is gonna bomb. If I'd have bet money on that, I would have lost my ass.
Hey, Brad, they're actually extending the 6th season. There's going to be more episodes than usual.
Oh, really? Okay, that's good. More the merrier.
But it's going to be it looks good, and all of them are back on board to do that. Chris Helmsworth came out and talked about Extraction 2. He was the very first thing
he opened up the show
with
that, didn't he?
Yeah, he opened up the show with that.
And that is awesome, by the way. If you haven't seen Extraction 2, pull it up on Netflix.
And he did say that they're working on Extraction 3. So that's coming up in the future. See, what else did... they talked about Squid Game Season 2. And what they're going to do with that.
Hit the like button, everybody. Hit it for Enosh. Even if you hate me, hit it for Enosh. Just kidding.
Arnold Schwarzenegger came out for a little bit and talked about his show Fubar and talked about how they're already getting a season 2. Linda Hamilton announced that she's going to be a part of Stranger Things season 5.
Yeah, I'm putting on Terminator 2 right now because of that, after that news.
And they're actually making a live action, and I didn't know this until today, which is really cool. They're making a live action version of a sci-fi series called The 3 Body Problem.
That's the one I was gonna make. I was hoping you would bring that up. I watched that trailer. I'm in on that,
dude. It's made by Benioff and Weiss that made Game of Thrones. Has
maybe
some of
part of my rehabilitating to forgive them.
Yeah, it has some of the Game of Thrones actors in it. The guy who played Samwell Tarly, he's one of the main characters. It looks really good, and I love those books. So I'm hoping they do. I hope they knock this one out of the park.
Are those graphic novels or books?
Believe they're books.
Oh, okay, I won't be reading them. I stopped reading. But the trailer for this one. What was the life finds life or something like that, or life searches for life or something? That was a good tagline. I'm like, I'm in for this, man. This